Hi, my name is João Souto. I am Brazilian. I live here in Brazil. I am attorney of the National Treasury and I am also professor of constitutional law. Our intention is to provide you with some information about the Brazilian legal system. So we decide to start this program here in the Three Power Square, the Supreme Court of Brazil, called the Federal Supreme Court, that is the highest court in the country. And we have also here the legislative body, the National Congress, with the Senate and the House of the Representative. And we also have here the executive headquarters. It's not as in the US, where the president lives and works in the White House. Here in the Brazil, in the Three Branches Square, the president just works. She lives in another palace called Palácio da Alvorada, that is around 3 miles from here. Brasilia is the capital. Most of the people abroad think that the capital is Rio de Janeiro or São Paulo. That is not. The capital is located in the central region, the central-west region. It was inaugurated in 1960 by the President Juscelino Kubitschek. He made a tremendous effort to change the capital from Rio de Janeiro to here. And since then, the capital has been growing a lot. We have now about almost 3 million people living here. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed our program. And during the weeks, we are going to show some aspects of the Brazilian system. We are going to discuss about the Constitution, about the legislative body, about the judiciary and the executive. It is our intention also to talk about each constitution that Brazil had in the past. Until today, we had 8 constitutions. The first one was 1824, the second was 1891, and then we had the Constitution of the 1934, then 1937, 1946, 1967, 1969, and 1988, that's our present Constitution. I know that our system is very different than the American system or from the other countries, but I think that we are going to provide some good information about this wonderful country called Brazil. Well, Brazil is a federation since 1889, and we have 26 states and the Federal District. Each state sent to the Congress 3 senators and a number of representatives that we call here federal deputy. Depends on the population of each state. We have the headquarters of the National Congress with the Senate and the House of Representatives. They gather here during the week, Monday to Friday, and it's common on the weekend they go back to their home states. Hi, we are here today for our first program to talk about the Brazilian legal system. But my intention, before talking about that, is to provide you with some information about our history. Brazil was discovered 8 years after Columbus arrived in North America. Brazil was discovered by the Portuguese navigator Pedro Álvares Cabral. Brazil was the biggest and the most important colony of Portugal, different than British that decided to set 13 colonies in North America. Our first constitution was enacted in 1824. The constitution was not a democratic one. The Brazil history began in 1500 and it was a colony of Portugal since then.
the independence was conquered in 1822, there is a very interesting thing about the Brazilian independence. The leader of the movement was the son of the King of Portugal, Dom Pedro I. He proclaimed the independence in September 7th, 1822. The Portuguese here in Brazil, they didn't make a great effort to resist the decision of independence. Unless in the state of Bahia, in the province of Bahia, that it was a war in the Bahia province just got the independence almost 1 year later in 1823, on July 1823. Let's talk now about our constitutional history. Our first constitution was enacted in 1824. The constitution was heavily influenced about the French style, the French model. There is a very interesting thing about this constitution. It talks about 4 powers, 3 that we know in most of the democratic country of nowadays: the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive power. But there was another one, the moderator. And the moderator power was exclusively for the emperor. What about the moderator power? The moderator power provides a long list of prerogatives in the hands of the emperor, such as the emperor could fire judges, appoint senators, in a list of 3 names that each province provides to him. The emperor could annul a punishment to a civil servant, for example. As we can see, he had in his hands a long list of prerogatives that no other power had. By the way, the scholar José Afonso da Silva, he affirmed that the moderator power was the key of the whole political system at that time. Among other powers that I have mentioned before, I remember now that the moderator power could also appoint the president of each province. I think that it was the cause of the proclamation of the Republic. Why? Because at that time, most of the Brazilian politicians want to install here a federation as the American model, mirroring the American model. And the emperor resisting in agreeing with that. And what happens? What happens that the monarchical systems fell down because the politicians at that time want a federative model. And as the emperor didn't agree, as the emperor did cede, the only exit in order to install the federative model of government, model of state, better saying, was to overthrow the emperor. And the emperor lost his position in 1889, and then Brazil became a republican state as the United States. In 1824, Brazil had an official religion, and the official religion was Catholic. No other religions were allowed except if they were professed in private homes. Brazil continues to have an official religion until 1891 with our first Republican Constitution that we are going to discuss in the next program. Few minutes ago, I spoke about the influence of the French Constitution in the Brazilian one, at that time, in the 19th century. I said that in the 1824 Constitution was heavily influenced by the French. I have another example to show that. In 1803, the United States Supreme Court decided the case Marbury versus Madison, the case that started the control of constitutionality in the hands of the judiciary. But 21 years later, here in Brazil, the man that wrote the Constitution of 1824 didn't agree with that. They chose to put in the hands of the legislative body the power, the prerogative to say if a law, if a statute was not according to the Constitution. So at that time, in the 19th century, the control of constitutionality was in the hands of the legislative body here in Brazil as the French Constitution, the French model at that time. Since the independence, Brazil has had 8 constitutions. I mentioned it a little before. But the 1824 Constitution, our first one, the one that was monarchical, the one that was enacted at the time that Brazil had an emperor, it is the most long-lived. There was no other constitution in our history that lasted for so many years like the 1824 one. It was enforced for 65 years. It is a present record. So, my fellows, that's it for our first program. I hope that you have enjoyed it. In the next program, I'm going to talk about the 1891 Constitution, our first Republican one, and some specific aspects of the Brazilian legal system. See you later. Thank you very much.